You cannot enslave a mind that knows itself, that values itself, that understands itself. Those of us who have been privileged to receive education, skills, and experiences, and even power must be role models for the next generation of leadership. You cannot protect the environment unless you empower people, you inform them, and you help them understand that these resources are their own, that they must protect them. We cannot tire or give up. We owe it to the present and future generations of all species to rise up and walk. In Kenya, women are the first victims of environmental degradation because they are the ones who walk for hours looking for water, who fetch firewood, who provide food for their families. In the course of history, there comes a time when humanity is called to shift to a new level of consciousness, to reach a higher moral ground, a time when we have to shed our fear and give hope to each other. That time is now. It's the little things citizens do that's what will make the difference. My little thing is planting trees, the little grassroots. People can change this world. I don't really know why I care so much. I just have something inside me that tells me that there is a problem, and I have got to do something about it. I think that is what I would call the God in me. I'm very conscious of the fact that you can't do it alone. It's teamwork. When you do it alone, you run the risk that when you are no longer there, nobody else will do it. In a few decades, the relationship between the environment, resources, and conflict may seem almost as obvious as the connection we see today between human rights, democracy, and peace. You can make a lot of speeches, but the real thing is when you dig a hole, plant a tree, give it water, and make it survive. That's what makes the difference. We can work together for a better world with men and women of goodwill, those who radiate the intrinsic goodness of humankind. Culture defines who we are and how we see ourselves. A new attitude toward nature provides space for a new attitude toward culture and the role it plays in sustainable development. The generation that destroys the environment is not the generation that pays the price. That is the problem. The planet needs trees. If there is indeed that carbon dioxide out there in the atmosphere, the only species on the planet that can actually trap it for us in a natural process of photosynthesis are the trees. What a friend we have in a tree. The tree is the symbol of hope, self-improvement, and what people can do for themselves. We can love ourselves by loving the earth. Human rights are not things that are put on the table for people to enjoy. These are things you fight for and then you protect. Every person who has ever achieved anything has been knocked down many times, but all of them picked themselves up and kept going. And that is what I have always tried to do. All of us have a God in us, and that God is the spirit that unites all life, everything that is on this planet. If you make mistakes, that is alright, because we all make mistakes and we learn from those mistakes. You gain confidence from learning, failing, and rising again. The people are learning that you cannot leave decisions only to leaders. Local groups have to create the political will for change rather than waiting for others to do things for them. That is where positive and sustainable change begins. That's the way I do things when I want to celebrate. I always plant a tree. Anybody can dig a hole and plant a tree, but make sure it survives. You have to nurture it. You have to water it. You have to keep at it until it becomes rooted, so it can take care of itself. There are so many enemies of trees. We are very fond of blaming the poor for destroying the environment, but often it is the powerful, including governments, that are responsible. Women are responsible for their children. They cannot sit back, waste time, and see them starve. It is important to nurture any new ideas and initiatives which can make a difference. For Africa, we do the right thing not to please people, but because it's the only logically reasonable thing to do. As long as we are being honest with ourselves, even if we are the only ones, the living conditions of the poor must be improved. If we really want to save our environment, we have a responsibility to protect the rights of generations of all species that cannot speak for themselves today. The global challenge of climate change requires that we ask no less of our leaders or ourselves. Disempowerment, whether defined in terms of a lack of self-confidence, apathy, fear, or an inability to take charge of one's own life, is perhaps the most unrecognized problem in Africa today. There's a general culture in this country to cut all the trees. It makes me so angry because everyone is cutting and no one is planting. It's a matter of life and death for this country. The Kenyan forests are facing extinction, and it is a man-made problem. As long as there is no trust and confidence that there will be justice and fairness in resource distribution, political positioning will remain more important than service. What people see as fearlessness is really persistence. Because I am focused on the solution, I don't see the danger. We tend to put the environment last because we think the first thing we have to do is eliminate poverty. But you can't reduce poverty in a vacuum. You are doing it in an environment. Because I was a woman, I was vulnerable. It was easy to vilify me and project me as a woman who was not following the tradition of a good African woman. The essential role of the environment is still marginal in discussions about poverty. While we continue to debate these initiatives, environmental degradation, including the loss of biodiversity and topsoil, accelerates, causing development efforts to falter. I definitely hope to relax. When I get back hope, I will disappear into the forest and be rejuvenated by the beauty of the mountains. Passion begins with a burden and a split-second moment. When you understand something like never before, that burden is on those who know. Those who don't know are at peace. Those of us who do know get disturbed and are forced to take action. African women in general need to know that it's okay for them to be the way they are, to see the way they are as a strength, and to be liberated from fear and from silence. When people can't use you, they ridicule what you represent. I was lucky that I understood that, because when one does not understand that, it is very easy to be broken and to be subdued. The people are starving. They need food. They need medicine. They need education. They do not need a skyscraper to house the ruling party and a 24-hour TV station. No matter who or where we are, or what our capabilities, we are called to do the best we can. WANGARI won April 1940, September 25, 2011, in the village of Ihive, Nyeri district, in the central highlands of the colony of Kenya. Her family was Kikuyu, the most populous ethnic group in Kenya, and had lived in the area for several generations. Around 1943, Maathai's family relocated to a white-owned farm in the Rift Valley near Nakuru, where her father had found work. Late in 1947, she returned to Ihive with her mother, as two of her brothers were attending primary school in the village, and there was no schooling available on the farm where her father worked. Her father remained at the farm. Shortly afterward, at the age of 8 years, she joined her brothers at Ihive Primary School. Maathai was a Kenyan social, environmental, and political activist who founded the Green Belt Movement, an environmental non-governmental organization focused on the planting of trees, environmental conservation, and women's rights. In 2004, she became the first African woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize. As a beneficiary of the Kennedy Airlift, she studied in the United States, earning a bachelor's degree from Mount St. Scholastica and a master's degree from the University of Pittsburgh. She went on to become the first woman in East and Central Africa to become a doctor of philosophy, receiving her PhD from the University of Nairobi in Kenya. In 1984, she got the Right Livelihood Award for converting the Kenyan ecological debate into mass action for reforestation. Maathai was an elected member of the Parliament of Kenya and, between January 2003 and November 2005, served as Assistant Minister for Environment and Natural Resources in the government of President Mwai Kibaki. She was an honorary counselor of the World Future Council. As an academic and the author of several books, Maathai was not only an activist but also an intellectual who has made significant contributions to thinking about ecology, development, gender, and African cultures and religions. Maathai died of complications from ovarian cancer on September 25, 2011.